Welcome to the Poetry Box Live. I'm Shawn Aveningo Sanders, and I'm thrilled that you could join us for a little poetry today. We took a little summer break, but we're excited to be back with you, sharing poetry from our wonderful authors. For those of you who may be tuning into our show for the very first time, my husband, Robert, and I run an independent press here in Portland, Oregon, known as the Poetry Box. And over the past 9 years, we've been lucky enough to collaborate with over 150 talented poets across the country to publish their books and chapbooks. We started hosting the Poetry Box Live 4 years ago during the pandemic to help our poets reach a broader audience. And it's been an absolute joy to keep this thing going and bringing people together from across the globe to share in our love of poetry. So thank you to all of our regular viewers and supporters of the show. We've got another great show for you today, featuring 3 amazing poets. We have Sheila Sondik, author of Lighting Up the Duff, Peter Kovac, author of A Little Bit Left of Straight Ahead, and Sher Schwartz, author of The Beautiful One's Arc. Let's get started with our first featured poet. Sheila Sondik is the author of Lighting Up the Duff, a collection of golden shovel poems inspired by many of her favorite poets. Sheila is a poet and printmaker who explores moments in time and space that the casual observer might overlook. Both art forms are opportunities for her to work with the unexpected. Prints are always mirroring the images of the drawings on the printing plates, and in writing Golden Shovels, the poet knows the last word of each line before the rest of it is even written. Sheila has always enjoyed word puzzles and has been a member of the National Puzzlers League since 2000. She lived in Berkeley, California for over 30 years after graduating from Harvard, and in 2008, she moved to Bellingham, Washington, in search of new landscapes and was happy to find a welcoming community of prolific poets. Her first chapbook, Fishing a Familiar Pond, Found Poems from the Yearling, was published in 2013. Her Western and Japanese-style poems appear in many journals and anthologies. Please welcome Sheila Sondik.
Back at you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here in Zoom land. Can you hear me okay? Yes, okay. And thank you for that warm introduction, Shawn. And thanks to Shawn and Robert for transforming my manuscript into this beautiful chapbook. So as Shawn mentioned, Lighting Up the Duff is a collection of golden shovels, a poetic form invented by the brilliant poet Terence Hayes. So when I begin a golden shovel, I write a line or two from a poem by a different poet vertically down the right margin of my paper. Those words will serve as the last words of every line in my poem. For these poems, I have borrowed lines from poets I discovered in my 20s and whose work I've read ever since. I'll read the quotation embedded in the right margin before I read each poem. So the first poem in the book and the first poem I'm going to read has a quotation from Linda Paston, one of my all-time favorites. And her quotation is, "The walled garden where my illusions grow. The lilac, watered, blooms all winter." Dear traveler, after Linda Paston. Ignore the cud chewers at the gate, the rapacious deer who inspired this walled paradise. I strive to have a garden without public displays of violence, where no pruning, chopping, or mowing down of my green dependents threatens my illusions. A place to sit and watch them grow. Welcome. I see you brought the book the critics hated with the lilac-scented end papers. The plot is watered only at night. The witch hazel blooms are cheerful yellow spiders, waving all their crooked legs in praise of winter. And before I read the next poem, I'd like to say something about that word duff. Duff is the soft layer of decaying vegetation that covers the ground under trees. I'm very fond of lichens, mosses, and mushrooms that all grow in the duff in our Pacific Northwest forests. They and the duff itself pop up in my poems throughout the collection. And this poem starts with another line from Linda Paston in a different vein. Sometimes I think all the best poems have been written already. Signs in the Duff after Linda Paston. As complexities multiply, I sometimes return to the forest trails where I can park the compulsion to think with the cars at the trailhead, all plinking their engine sounds like the little brown birds. And the best I can do is read the graphic poems where leaves, lichens, and moss have harmonized as if they've been arranged in infinite phrases written on water to send a boreal alarm warning us to get ready. Kenneth Rexroth was an influential Bay Area anarchist and poet. I especially love his nature poetry. And he said, "The seasons revolve and the years change with no assistance or supervision." Division of labor after Kenneth Rexroth. Before I moved here, I didn't know the 21 varieties of rain. Seasons teach us to count the hours of light. We revolve on our own private spheres. Back and forth the pendulum swings as the cedars toss their heads. All these years, nothing constant but loose change. Forests are felled and the oceans fill with plastic, gyring and gimbling in the waves. No hole I dig is deep enough. Your assistance is welcome for planting daffodils or tulips. They'll bloom without supervision. Some of the poems in the book are based on childhood memories. Philip Levine, another favorite poet of mine, wrote very movingly about his early life in Detroit. And his lines here are, "All the ships are gone, the gray wharf fallen in upon itself." Traveling Lady after Philip Levine. Aunt Rose did the globe-trotting for us all aboard the Queens, Mary and Elizabeth. We had the bewildering thrill of seeing her off on the ships she sailed from one disappointment to the next. We're left with a few photos, the souvenir menu's gone, along with her memories, which left before the twisted body that insisted on keeping on. Gray now, as she always was, I walk the wharf end to end. Where are the fallen grown-ups who used to keep order in our homes and offices? There upon a piling, a lone gull mutters to itself. A line from Marge Piercy. Caverns opening off corridors I will never enter. Underground after Marge Piercy. One Sierra summer, we toured deep caverns. Our toddler daughter, aiming at an opening in the cave floor, pulled her hard hat off and threw it, bouncing and ringing down corridors of rock-bound time. Spelunking the past, I hope that the excavation of vanished eras will reveal life's hidden scaffolding. Meanwhile, I'll never forget the rattler coiled right where we needed to enter. The next poem is set in my college years. It contains the phrase wobbly hymns with the W capitalized. That's the nickname of the industrial workers of the world, the Wobblies, which was the source of memorable songs like Hallelujah, I'm a Bum. The quotation here is by Kenneth Rexroth, who I'm sure knew these songs well. Time was, I walked in February rain, my head full of its own rhythms like a shell. Dream work after Kenneth Rexroth. Hard to remember, there was a time when the time there was enough. On Sundays, I did the crossword and walked across slippery cobblestones in an ivied city. That February was icy and April brought rain. I return there in my dreams. They roil in my head when the moon and Jupiter are full. Do you need more proof of the sleeping organs industry, its drive to manufacture its own music based on the rhythms of the wobbly hymns we used to like? My brain, traveling snugged in a skull, a walnut wrinkling in its shell. And the next poem starts with, embeds a quote from Maxine Kumin. And this is a quote of hers that I particularly like. At the next stopover, the children take off their doctor and lawyer disguises and turn back into little lambs. Taking stock after Maxine Kumin. Past midlife, I reached a dark wood at the border of my known world. The understory urged me on to the next canopied clearing. No time for a stopover where I could turn and look back at the rock-strewn paths that led my children to distant realms. What to take from the receding years? What to slough off and leave in the duff? My ideals, their shadowy embodiments, the soul doctor struggles to revive. All the dreams and misdeeds. Ah, no, I never needed a lawyer, thanks to the one and his infinite disguises. Overlooked by the authorities and waiting decades for my turn, I found my way back, transforming straw into silver and spinning little notions who scampered like lambs. I'm going to read two more poems. This one also has a quotation from Maxine Kumin. The parsnips, those rabbis, have braided their beards together to examine the text, the word. It's called The Joy of Cooking after Maxine Kumin. I will write my biography in recipes. The whole wheat pie crust filled with parsnips, the casseroles, pastas, stir fries, and those blintzes from my childhood, like ones the rabbis prescribe for days of dairy and desperation. I've baked cornbread, casseroles, kugels, and braided challahs. Most of these enthusiasms had their passing eras, just as my husband's beards came and went. Picture all the meals together, laid side by side in a football field. I'd like to fly a camera drone high overhead to examine the tableau for its hidden meanings. The colors, aromas, and flavors assemble a text as esoteric and multi-layered as the ancient scrolls, with dessert as the last word. And I will close with another quote from Linda Paston. There is something hopeful about March, something benevolent about the light. And the poem, that's in my poem, the understory after Linda Paston. That red fungus cup over there on the wet black fallen twig is lighting up the duff, telling us something about whimsy, making us feel almost hopeful while the mosses wave their capsules about. And in spite of the dankness of early March, the days continue to grow into something approaching a diurnal, benevolent grace we're not at all sure about, but eventually we can't deny the unstoppable turning towards the light. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Sheila. That was just wonderful. And I have to say, I am pretty much astonished that you were able to create an entire collection of Golden Shovel poems. I've tried writing a few, and man, it is not easy. And the way that you're able to, it's not really a braiding or a weaving of their words, but there's this conversation between the lines that you've chosen from the poet's poem and how you've used it to create your own. I think it's really a wonderful marriage. And I'm really glad that you read the lines that you were pulling from at the beginning of each poem, because one of my favorite things to do when I come across a golden shovel is to read the golden shovel and then go down and read those last lines if you have it in front of you in print. And it's almost like by doing that, it kind of creates like an extra turn in the poem itself, which is really fun.
Thank you so much, Shawn. And I do think the puzzling background helps, or
Absolutely.
maybe it just all fits together.
Yeah. Well, I like the way your brain works because it really works. And thank you so much for sharing these with us today. It was really wonderful. Okay, so next up we have Kim Peter Kovac reading from his book, A Bit Left of Straight Ahead, whose eclectic poems are a journey within a journey born from his free-form imagination. Kim began writing poetry in 2012, toward the end of his career in national and international theater for young audiences, participating in his first Poetry Barn asynchronous online workshop on a plane ride home from Okinawa, just barely beating a typhoon. That's a great start to poetry right there. He has commissioned and produced more than 100 plays and musicals as artistic director of the Kennedy Center Theater for young audiences, including from Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award-winning playwrights and composers. Along with Deirdre Kelly Lavrakas, Kim co-founded and co-produced the Kennedy Center's New Voices, New Visions, an award-winning program that helped develop 111 new plays, musicals, and operas, both nationally and internationally. Kim has over 150 poems published in journals worldwide, and it is my pleasure to welcome Kim Peter Kovac.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Okay, thank you. The first poem is one of 8 pieces in this collection that I classify as meta-grim. As part of my career, you can imagine I spent lots of time reading myths and fairy tales. These meta-grim pieces imagine characters from the tales as if they were living people interacting with the brothers. Beauty sleeping. Submerged on a bed, bleary brain vacillates in a hallucinatory haze, in, out, and around a gallimaufry of garbled images and thoughts. Spiderweb with neon cliches snapping off on as well. Edit, revise, edit, trim, cut. A blue pencil whirls in the soup of words. Was I a writer once? Why are my dreams rife with words? Semi-awake, harsh white walls surrounding, patches glued to my skin, multicolored wires snaking to shiny, menacing machines. Numbers, graphs, lines, an arrhythmic chorus of clicks and beeps. Struggling against belt strapping me down, memory lights up again. Therapy sessions to grok my wilding dreams and writer's block. Dr. Jakob Grimm is a Jungian, trafficking in archetypes, Morpheus and such. Not a Freudian with all that stupid-ass couch and sex. During my 6th session, lost in word streams, abruptly a needle appears, and skin pops my finger. Drug arriving in arteries, coursing and spreading up toward my brain. Its tingling marking the passage till I plunge into deep sleep. Over days, weeks, months, I'm lorded over by the same grim, now a somnologist, documenting my dream narratives in segments on his podcast. Ambient patches, speckled skin, lack of writing tools and paper empowers him to steal my stories and my history and publish as his own. I must sabotage this scheme and flee, burst myself out of this sleep state, rein in all the words, images, herd them into place, and reclaim them as mine. This is the beauty part. The next piece is inspired by a photo taken by my dear friend, French playwright Sher. Its title is From the Armchair Stuck in Sand Facing the Ocean. The armchair clad in black and green diamond fabric leans back, lopsided legs sunk in the mudflat, a seductive space against the wind, whose offspring are the white horses running at the crest of the waves. A bit left of straight ahead, a bird flies up and glides down, repeats and repeats, drawing arcs across the sky and calling all the time. An ancient cry with complex harmonies, a cry that is half bird and half spirit, ecstatic and haunting. It can only be a curlew, and the cry interweaves with the cries of wind and water and invites listening beyond sound to the Orphic opening of silence and discovery of new names of all things in the cosmos. Better names, perhaps. Smoking with the dead. It's possible that smoking might still be cool where the dead live. I believe in ghosts, yet find them cold and abstract. The dead are much more alive, love nicotine rituals which are difficult to imagine if you did not run in packs with de rigueur cigarette packs. Though I quit years ago because of heart disease, I still crave cigarettes, both for the drug hit and the social ritual. More than with my few addicted pals still remaining, I long to smoke with the gone, two in particular. My pal Colleen and I smoked and snarked for years at performance festivals in Utrecht, Adelaide, St. Paul, Cleveland. Bad kids bonding in bars outside back doors of theaters. I longed to bum one of her beloved marble menthols and recall our last phone call, where I got a loud and full deep laugh gut out of her despite failing lungs. Now, we'd share a great guffaw while plotting some cool-ass live stage productions for young audiences, spiced by the ironies of the dying and the dead. Way more I'd love to smoke with my father, a channeling challenge since he was whacked suddenly by a heart attack in 1963 when I was 13. On this occasion, we'd fish out Kent's cigarettes, 2 packs a day, and his flip-lidded silver Zippo lighter, as much a part of a soldier's kit as a canteen. Smoking with him would cause familial condemnation. They hated my embrace of his habit. Yet I'd risk their judgment, if they were even present in this ghosty dead place, so I could ask a few questions. First, why is all I recall him recounting about his time as a fighter plane mechanic in the World War II South Pacific? It was a wacky tale of his tent filled with cans of grapefruit juice, which they mixed with medicinal alcohol to allow a quick, numb drunkenness. Next, did he miss us as much as all of us missed and miss him in our lives, though in different and mostly unspoken ways? Surely, since he is, of the family, he would dance away from emotional things as we, the living, did and do. Third, how fluid, really, is the border between our world and his? Several times my sis, a rabid non-smoker, has smelled cigarette smoke in her house, and each time felt our father was there with her for love or support, a gently wafting presence. Lighting one last cig off his, I would deeply inhale, blow some smoke rings, and ask, "Were you there for Lisa? Was that you?" What I'd be afraid to ask is, "Did you ever come to me when I needed you?" I suspect there would be no answer, nor a repeat of the query. Since no clocks exist in this place, neither of us is certain how much time we will have together. One last drag, and we toss the cigarette butts onto the heavenly sidewalk and twists our shoes to fully extinguish the coals. I love walking in cities that are new to me, with discoveries around every corner. On some special days, when the sun and moon are just right, these discoveries might include suddenly being transported to another city. This poem is entitled Lost and After. Wandering around a new city, guided by a mix of serendipity and minimal sense of direction. In the old section of Bratislava, Slovakia, a cracked church bell strikes 5. The train will be leaving soon, and the station is in what direction and how far away? Left seems right, and as the smartphone on shuffle switches to a song by the band Mouse on Mars, the narrow medieval street bumps into a once elegant, now faded boulevard, abuzz with Spanish speakers. A few hundred meters away is the weekly demonstration by the mothers of the Plaza del Mayo in memory of the Argentine disappeared. Trying to glide past bored police guarding the stage, suddenly a hilly area, and in the distance above the buildings loom the minarets of Istanbul's Blue Mosque. Walking downhill towards sea level, the Middle Eastern residential architecture segues into Middle European industrial. Unexpected in a city as cosmopolitan as Vienna, home to that giant Ferris wheel, now peaking above a factory. A bell tower strikes 6, warm, and likely the city's mother church of St. Stephen's, yet the dog barks get colder with swiftly falling light. As the night folds in, a car slowing on the dark and deserted street brings a strong frisson of fear. Dead end ahead, left turn only, dance through the pack of skater dudes, and voila, the bodega named Bodega, just right of the Bratislava Central Station. The plaza's lights are as welcoming as the sparkling eyes of the pierced and tatted girl running toward her purple mohawked skater boy. In his short lifetime, Van Gogh wrote over 800 letters, most to his brother Theo, his always loyal supporter. Lost to history, however, is his letter about how 3 1960s free jazz tunes influenced 3 of his paintings. Van Gogh's Mixtape, August 19th, 2021. My dear Theo. Engulfing easel is a quivering light bouncing back, forth, back, constant chrome yellow, carbon black, cobalt blue, then days of darkness visible. Now, still air. And as promised, sending sounds that shaped some 3 of my paintings. You're younger and may not know the term mixtape, though this music is on a zip drive, not a cassette. What spiked dreams and guided palette knives, 1960s jazz from America, with shocking changes to free and random. Ornette, Train, Mingus Monk, and my fave, Eric Dolphy. Composer virtuoso on alto sax, flute, bass, clarinet, Dolphy dances forward, backward on a dime, and dies far too young abroad, alone, almost my age. Hat and Beard is about Monk, with a killer bass clarinet solo on the knife edge of emotion intersecting form. This tune is why I added the hat to Self-Portrait with Straw Hat. Never liked it, but it shades sun and balances my beard color. Should I perhaps rename the painting Hat and Beard in Yellow Ochre? It is ungracious, yet I wish the song Starry, Starry Night had never been written. The world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Belittles my brain battles, painting me as a twee plastic artist toy. The heart of the starry night lives in Dolphy's Out There, a swirling tune rich with sad joy, and Eric's multi-reeds leaping nimbly and surprisingly. Miss Anne, the best recording is from his Last Date album, in Holland with a pickup band beating repeating wheat rhythms. If you listen with gimlet ears, you'll hear birds on his angular solo. Dolphy hits notes between notes, microtones that flutter and fly. Listen as you view wheat field with crows and know it lives between bright and darkness. And when Miss Anne stops, next is Eric's soft tenor voice. When you hear music, after it's over, it's gone in the air. You can never capture it again. And I struggle in paint to seize what I feel and hear and see before it's over, before it's gone. Well, boy, a hearty handshake in thought, and write as soon as you can. Yours, Vincent. And we'll end with a piece called The Hound's Name. Scattered through Ireland are thin places where the veil between this world and the next is knitted loosely, where my myth hunters trained whether I can, on certain evenings at nautical twilight, see to the other side. The Newgrange monument, a half-century older than Stonehenge, is vibrantly thin and abuzz with stories of the Dagda, a druid god, his eldest son Angus, and the shapeshifter called Puka. Perhaps it's the latter who runs at me, out of the past, through the evening mist, with curved tail all aswirl, mostly white with black ears, raccoon mask, and small random spots, body shrinking as he nears. It's a puppy, racing from the Newgrange mound to the only human visible, and I await his arrival, his run punctuated by leaps into the air, bouncing as if built of spring metal, finally, leaping higher than possible into my arms. As he licks my face, I hold his energized head in my hands and smile. What's your name, boy? What's your name? He holds my great gaze tightly with deep russet eyes and speaks clearly. Fairmac, Fairmac of Crowboy. Thank you.
Wow, Kim, you are such a great storyteller. Your imagery, your wordplay, and plus your willingness to really push the limits with the syntax is such a treat. I mean, when you read the book, you get to see all these wonderful things that he's done with the language on the page. It's really fun. And I especially loved hearing Smoking with the Dead. I just love that poem and the way it ends. Oh, that image at the end is just so perfect.
Yeah. I started, if I can interrupt, I started writing poetry. I mean, I'd spent my career building stories for young people on stages, okay? And then I thought, well, I want to tell stories in writing. So that's kind of where the instinct comes. So
Well, it comes through. It really does.
90% of my poems are stories. And, many of them are magical realism because, young people don't see a difference between those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. That really is. Well, thank you so much for sharing these with us today. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Our final featured poet today is Sher Schwartz, author of The Beautiful One's Ark, a lyric collection of poetry exploring contemporary rural agrarian life in Eastern Oregon. Sher is a published essayist, poet, old-time fiddle musician, singer, and retired professor. She was born in Georgia, raised in Virginia, and spent many summers in rural West Virginia with her mother's family. Her vocal training, beginning at 12 and later rhythm guitar playing is in an old-time string band, laid the foundation for the musicality in Sher's poetry. She has written country and mountain folk songs and composed classical hymns. She lived for many years in a cabin on the beach in Alaska while teaching in the humanities department at the University of Alaska in Ketchikan. In 2011, she retired from academic life and moved to Eastern Oregon, where she helped restore 200 acres of old farmland to native grasslands and pollinator plants. Sher also performs with her old-timey Sugar Hill Band throughout the Columbia River Gorge, but she seems to write more poetry these days than songs. Please welcome Sher Schwartz.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see everyone. And thank you so much to all our friends and family who are supporting our book launch tonight. And also, I wanted to recognize the Poetry Box because it has been so wonderful working with Shawn and Robert. And I so appreciate how you all support beginning writers, emerging writers, and well-established writers. And you've done that beautifully for a really long time. And it's been exceptional to work with you. So thank you. And a big hello to my family who's all here tonight, my mom and my brother and his family from Virginia. Okay, this first poem is called Feathers of Uncertainty. Smell the walking wall advancing from the west. Feel the pressure fall, moisture in air it breathes. Into hollow bones, dense cries, sky flakes relentless. Oyster gauze falls and folds. Food is smothered in snow. Thin, sweet layers pile 3 feet high. Sweet, deep baklava, silence. Urgency swirls in the pools of black Junco's eyes. White tail feathers peep, roost seek. Will she come safely, live until dawn? Feathers of uncertainty. Farmer crowds the wood stove and looks as her accounts steam. Risings from the pan. Can she buy grass seed next year? How to save the dying tractor? Creased brow and snow drifts, turning numbers over. Plowing odds, fluffing, trying to retain heat, she, trying to survive. Feathers of uncertainty. And what's important to know about this next poem is that it's from the standpoint of a dog. The speaker is a dog. It's called Wolf Eye. She tries to tame me, train me. She would deny my nature. Life's flame, she ignores my squirrel kill. Train me, tame me. I tremble and drool, ears taut, hindquarters still to see the woods flicker. My nature is nature. I carve old channels instead of shaping to her cooked taste. Outside the fire's ring, night songs, elementals, we lock eye to eye. The dog, the girl, her brown eye, my golden, twining curls and my silver tip fur. But I burn primordial flame. When I run, yes, run, I will return if I can. Nevertheless, I do stray. I do. I am nature, her heart, that beats her heart break. And this next one is fun. It's somewhere in between a barrel race and a square dance with a couple of donkeys and a cow dog. It's called Donkey Square Dance. Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can barely speak. And I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Irving Berlin. Donkey Square Dance. Two donkeys chase the field, abreast the long ears fly. Spark ignites the farm dog who follows donkey's stride. Flames of bark lick fleeing hooves. Cow dog bounds, and grooves. Daisy chain and do-si-do. Swing your partner. Hoofbeat, footbeat, dance sweet, oh so sweet. Donkeys spin the barrel hard, thunder roll across the plain. The dog turns last, pounds ahead, awesome speed he gains. 2, 3, 4 runs by, sear the lightning lines, sing their trail, happy dog, long feathered fur it shines. But soon the dog finds end of breath, sits ragged, panting, yearns. Slowing to a happy pitch, donkeys trot in single file, pursing lips, heads held high. Cow dog catches their victory smiles. Thank you. And this next one holds more than a grain of truth. It's called Father's Ashes 1. Father's ashes rode in an urn for 40 years, bumping up and down Alaska, Louisiana, Washington, and Oregon, until finally Mother and I were ready to release at the top of the hill, overlooking a raw prairie, bending to birdsong and fescue, ladybugs, red-black mounds, clinging against the wind. Mother said a few words. I don't remember them now. I opened the box ready, but then, Mother, who is Mabel Merman? This label, Claremont Crematorium, Paradise Beach, Florida, reveals a stranger. And stranger, where are my father's ashes? 2. We shook. We should. So we do. Say. Words. I don't remember them. For Mabel. I poured grains of quartz, calcium, sand, molecules, particles, once a person, maybe a friend, worker, dreamer, daughter, a son, crumbs and nuggets, masquerades. I improvise a father. Imagine the handsome dresser, his Sinatra singing voice, the smell of his hair oil, blackhead studding his thick neck, his card shuffling hands as Mabel drifts. Down the hill, whisk across the prairie, entwined with our Oregon winds, spreading as grime beneath meadowlark feet as it sings for the morning. We probably did, I don't remember, bow our heads, murmuring, Father, Maybelle, go well. During the pandemic, as we all were, we were stuck home, and my husband remembered that he really wanted to build something significant using old world craftsmanship of mortise and tenon, which means it's kind of like Legos. It's all joints and no nails. So he spent July and August down in the pole barn in the incredible heat, and he fashioned a 12 by 16 cabin, which later we erected on a remote part of the farm. And I spent a lot of time there writing and reading. First night, hot night. First night, hot night, cabin windows open. Mortise and tenon, he joined his piece to her piece, cabin's creation, then abandoned his work for her work, to inhabit wooden spaces, his gift for her, to experience nature through her body, her roof, her timbers, her beams, her solid floor, her knots, her visions. First night, hot night, cabin windows open. Sounds hit the metal roof, worker voices far away fading, harvest ended. Pee-wee's buzz, dog's bell tinkles. Motorcycle roars up the county road. Crows caw embodied to their roost line. Quiver voices, northern flicker, away. No place to go, just up and down the county road. Light shines up ahead, raccoons. First night, hot night, cabin windows open. What is nature? Last whistle of a dove's wing, nighthawk, swoop swish, folds and dives. Will she see stars or jet lights tonight? Her caught a heat cloud, bag discarded, mosquitoes seek, incense burns low. She slips, no place to go. She sighs, smiles. Is this what she hears, a dog's far away yelp? Shadows lengthen, screen door slams, he's closing across the prairie. Jumps the creek through yellow meadow to her in his hands, old wood, his beams, his joinery, their coming together song. First night, hot night, cabin windows open. And this is after Mary Oliver. Autumn scents. I have planted silence and listened for sweet-scented flowers in the late afternoon. I squirrel away distractions, accept and surrender. To each falling leaf, they know how to fall. I hear slowing light, slipping upon cooling pools. Another autumn, and waters thicken. More night surface, ice, stills, fish ripple, rise. Silence in the creek, once wending the meadow. Old joints stiffen. I have touched the hem of autumn's end. And this last one is from a new collection that I'm working on, celebrating, exploring time that we spent 16 years in Southeast Alaska, living on an island. Young man's first hunting trip. He teaches his son how to act. When the boat's engine stalls, they are drifting between Alaskan sandbars and rocky shoals. In the fog, a stag's antlers appear. As the deer swims toward land, father throws the looped line. Father's line holds. Deer pulls them to shore, cradled in safety. When the deer stands, shakes, father shoots. 10,000 stars die in that young man's eyes as the deer crashes to sand. Aurora borealis, milk green magic, world dancer, does not show itself for another 50 years. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Wow, Cher. That was such an entertaining reading. I love hearing the poem from the dog's voice and the donkey square dance. What fun. But then, you know, the sensual sounds of First Night, Hot Night. What wonderful poem. This whole collection is absolutely gorgeous, and your attention to the sounds of poetry really make hearing you read these poems such a treat today. I want to thank you for writing this book and for sharing your poems with us today. I really like the new one about Alaska. That was beautiful too. So let's have a giant round of applause for all of our readers today. Wow, I'd love to thank all three of you, our poets, Sheila, Kim, and Sher. And thank you, our audience, for supporting our authors and joining us for another edition of the Poetry Box Live. Our next show will be on Saturday, October 12th, when our featured poets will be Jenny Lowe Connors, Fred Zerm, and Lois Levinson. And to keep up to date on upcoming shows, new releases, submission opportunities, please subscribe to our newsletter by going to thepoetrybox.com, where you'll find a sign-up form at the bottom of each webpage. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Beautiful.
Cher, I can see where you live just through your poems.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Lovely
you,
reading,
everyone.
all three. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert and
Thank you.
Shawn.
Really good.
Everybody.